Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. You ready to dive deep?
Always ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today we're tackling a pretty big name in philosophy,
Yeah.
Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel.
Uh-huh.
And he had a massive impact on how we understand history and societal structures and all that.
Absolutely.
You might be surprised to learn how his ideas about historical progress and conflict can actually shed light on some red pill concepts.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially those covert contracts you guys are always talking about.
Yeah, that's a great connection, actually.
To help us unpack all of this, we're turning to an insightful YouTube lecture from the Overthink podcast.
Yeah, good choice.
They do a great job of breaking down Hegel's notoriously dense writings.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Because he is not an easy read.
No, he's really not.
Okay, so let's jump right into one of Hegel's most intriguing concepts, spirit.
Okay.
This isn't about ghosts or anything supernatural.
Right.
It's more like the collective consciousness of humanity, the driving force behind historical change.
Right, like the engine of history.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's fascinating is that Hegel saw spirit progressing through a process of self-estrangement.
Yeah, that's a key idea for him.
So think of it like an oak tree growing from a tiny acorn.
Oh, okay, I like that analogy.
The acorn contains the potential for the entire tree.
Right.
But it needs to go through a process of transformation, of struggle even,
Yeah, it has to break out of its shell.
to reach its full potential.
Right, exactly.
So it's not a predetermined fixed path.
Right.
History isn't just unfolding according to some grand plan.
Exactly.
Hegel emphasized the role of human actions and desires in this process.
Yeah, he really pushed back against the idea that history was just this predetermined thing.
So spirit needs us to unfold, to evolve.
Right. We are the vehicles for spirit.
And that right there challenges the idea of a rigid societal order that can't be changed.
Yeah. It means we have the power to shape history.
Now that resonates with a lot of red pill thinking, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
This idea that we have the power to shape our own destinies, to push back against the status quo.
Yeah, it's about taking control, not just accepting whatever reality is handed to you.
Especially when it comes to those unspoken expectations in relationships.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The covert contracts that can leave guys feeling trapped.
That's a great point.
This idea of self-estrangement might even resonate with your own personal journeys.
Right.
Think about the times you faced challenges, pushed yourself beyond your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Those struggles, those tensions,
Yeah,
can lead to growth and self-discovery.
for sure. It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Just like spirit needs those moments of tension to evolve.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we got this spirit driving history.
Right.
But how does this progress actually happen?
Yeah, good question.
What's the mechanism?
Uh-huh.
Well, here's where we get to Hegel's famous dialectical method.
Ah, yes, the dialectic.
A dance of opposites, you might say.
I like that.
He used this framework of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
Right, the Hegelian triad.
You start with an idea, the thesis.
Right.
Then you have its opposite, the antithesis.
Uh-huh.
These two clash,
They're in tension with each other.
creating tension and conflict.
Yeah.
But out of that conflict arises a new idea,
Uh-huh.
the synthesis, which incorporates elements of both, but takes us to a higher level of understanding.
Right, so it's not about one side winning.
Got it.
It's about finding a way to resolve the tension between the two.
So it's not about one side winning over the other.
Right.
It's about finding a resolution that transcends the original conflict.
Exactly.
Kind of like how in a healthy relationship, you don't want one person dominating the other.
Right, that's a good analogy.
It's about finding a dynamic that works for both partners.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hegel applied this dialectical method to all sorts of things,
Yeah, he saw it everywhere.
including the evolution of government structures.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic example.
For example, he saw the shift from despotic monarchy to democracy as a dialectical process.
Right.
So a single ruler holding absolute power is the thesis.
Uh-huh.
And the people demanding a voice and a share of the power is the antithesis.
Precisely.
But Hegel also recognized the potential downsides of both systems.
Yeah, he was very nuanced in his thinking.
Monarchy can lead to tyranny, while
Trash.
pure democracy can be chaotic and unstable.
Yeah, too much freedom can be just as bad as too little.
So what's the synthesis?
Right.
What kind of government did Hegel see as the next stage in this evolution?
Well, for Hegel, it was constitutional monarchy.
Okay.
You have the rule of the people guided by reason,
Okay.
expressed through a constitution,
Uh-huh.
and a monarch who symbolizes the unity of the state.
Interesting.
So it's like a balance between the two extremes.
So it's like each stage contains the seeds of the next,
Right.
driving this continuous movement towards something better, something more balanced.
Exactly. It's like history is always striving to perfect itself.
And that's a crucial point to remember when we're talking about relationships, too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about going back to some idealized past or completely rejecting tradition.
Right.
It's about understanding how those traditional structures evolved,
Mm-hmm.
where they might have gone wrong,
Right.
and how we can create something new that incorporates the best of both worlds.
Exactly. It's about progress, not regression.
This is getting really interesting.
I know, right?
We're starting to see how these seemingly abstract philosophical ideas can actually offer some insights into the challenges men face today,
Yeah, it's all connected.
especially within the context of marriage and relationships.
For sure.
And we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
Hegel had a lot to say about the individual's role in history, the concept of the Volksgeist,
Right.
and this idea of history as a gradual unfolding of something he called the idea.
All big ideas.
All of this has the potential to offer some profound insights into how we can navigate the complexities of modern life.
Absolutely. It's mind-blowing stuff.
We'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into those concepts. Stay with us.
Definitely looking forward to it. Yeah.
Welcome back.
So before we went to break, we were exploring Hegel's idea of spirit as the driving force of history.
Right.
Now, he also had this other really interesting concept, the Volksgeist,
Yes.
or spirit of a people.
Uh-huh.
What exactly did he mean by that?
Well, Hegel believed that each distinct group of people, each civilization has its own unique spirit, its own character that drives its historical development.
Okay.
These Volksgeists play specific roles in the grand narrative of history. Some civilizations rise, flourish, and then decline,
Okay.
making way for new ones to emerge.
So it's like each civilization has its own unique contribution to make to the overall progress of humanity.
Precisely. And I think this concept of the Volksgeist can be particularly relevant when we're thinking about the challenges men face today.
Okay.
Because if we look back at the history of Western civilization, we can see how the role of men has evolved over time.
And how certain values and ideals associated with masculinity have been either reinforced or challenged at different points in history. Exactly, and I think understanding those historical shifts can help us better understand the current cultural landscape and the specific challenges men are facing today.
Okay.
For example, the rise of feminism in the 20th century led to a significant reevaluation of traditional gender roles, which had a profound impact on how men viewed themselves and their place in society.
And maybe even led to some of those unspoken expectations and resentments that we see playing out in relationships today, those covert contracts we talked about earlier.
It's definitely possible because if those traditional roles and expectations are no longer serving men or women, then we need to figure out what a new, healthier dynamic might look like.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got spirit driving history, Volksgeist shaping cultures, and this dialectic pushing everything forward through conflict and resolution.
Right. It's all connected.
But Hegel also talked about something called the idea. What was that all about?
Yes. The idea, it's one of Hegel's more challenging concepts, but also one of his most profound. Think of it as the ultimate truth or reality that gradually reveals itself through history.
Okay.
It's not something we create. It's more like something we discover as we progress.
So it's like there's a blueprint, a grand plan for the universe.
You could put it that way.
And we're just figuring it out piece by piece through our experiences and our struggles.
But it's not a rigid blueprint. Hegel believed that the idea unfolds through the dialectic, through the clash of opposing forces.
Okay.
It's through our attempts to understand the world, our successes and our failures, that we inch closer to this ultimate truth.
That sounds a lot like the red pill journey, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It's about questioning the narratives we've been given, peeling back the layers of societal conditioning, and trying to understand the world on our own terms.
And just as the red pill challenges conventional wisdom about gender roles and relationships, Hegel challenged conventional thinking about history and philosophy.
Okay.
He wasn't afraid to question the assumptions of his time, and he encouraged others to do the same.
So if we apply this concept of the idea to the red pill, we could say that the journey is about discovering the truth about men and women, about relationships, about the dynamics of power that shape our lives.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process, a journey of self-discovery and growth, just like spirit is constantly evolving through self-estrangement. We as individuals and as a collective are constantly striving to understand ourselves and our place in the world.
Wow, this is heavy stuff.
I know, right?
But it's also incredibly empowering.
It is.
Because if history isn't just a random series of events, if there's this underlying logic, this idea driving everything forward, then it means we're not just victims of circumstance.
Right.
We have a role to play in this grand unfolding.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the importance of understanding the historical and societal forces that have shaped our world.
Okay.
We need to be aware of those forces, but we don't have to be controlled by them. We can use our understanding of the past to create a better future.
And maybe even rewrite those covert contracts that are causing so much friction in modern relationships.
Exactly. But that's a topic for another time.
Okay.
We'll be back after a short break to explore how we can apply these insights to our own lives. Stay with us.
Sounds good. So welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
You know, as we've been exploring these complex Hegelian concepts,
Right.
like spirit,
Yeah.
the Volksgeist, and the idea,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how they might connect with a major topic in the Red Pill community,
Yeah.
covert contracts.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Hegel's ideas about historical progress and conflict
Yeah.
can offer a fresh perspective on these unspoken expectations
Right.
in relationships.
For sure.
We were just talking about how history isn't just a
Yeah.
random series of events.
Uh-huh.
It's this constant unfolding
Right.
driven by the dialectic,
Uh-huh.
this clash between opposing forces.
Yeah.
And it seems like you could apply that same framework
Okay.
to the evolution of relationships between men and women.
Absolutely. You can definitely see that.
So let's say the traditional model of relationships,
Okay.
where men are seen as the providers
Uh-huh.
and women as the homemakers,
Mm-hmm.
is the thesis.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's the starting point,
Right.
the established order.
The status quo.
That's been around for centuries.
Yeah, for a long time.
That's the foundation,
Right.
the set of assumptions that relationships were built upon
Yeah, the paradigm.
for generations.
Yeah, exactly.
But then along comes
Yeah. Uh-huh.
the antithesis,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
challenge to that traditional model.
Uh-huh.
We could point to the rise of feminism in the 20th century,
Okay. Yeah.
advocating for greater equality
Right.
between men and women,
Uh-huh.
pushing back against those rigid gender roles.
Exactly.
So now we have this tension,
Yeah.
this conflict
Right.
between the traditional view of relationships and the push for greater equality.
Yeah. The old versus the new.
Where does that leave us?
Yeah. Good question.
What's the synthesis?
That's where it gets really interesting. Out of this clash, this struggle for a new equilibrium emerges a new understanding of relationships.
Okay.
It's a synthesis that incorporates elements of both
Okay.
the traditional and the feminist perspectives.
But is that where these covert contracts come into play?
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
Because even though we're striving for equality,
Right.
there are still these unspoken expectations,
Yeah.
these lingering remnants of that older model that can create all sorts of problems.
Absolutely. It's like we're still operating on old software.
So the idea of a covert contract
Yeah.
is that there are these unspoken agreements,
Right.
these assumptions about how men and women should behave
Uh-huh.
in relationships
Yeah.
that often go unacknowledged and unexamined.
Like we inherit them without even realizing it.
And these expectations might be rooted in those older
Yeah.
traditional models of relationships,
Right.
even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Exactly. It's like they're embedded in our subconscious.
So even as we strive for greater equality,
Uh-huh.
even as we consciously reject those rigid gender roles,
Right.
we might still be operating under these unconscious assumptions
Exactly.
about what men and women should be doing
Yeah.
or how they should be behaving in relationships.
Like a cultural hangover.
Right.
Yeah.
And that can lead to a lot of frustration, resentment, and misunderstandings.
Oh, for sure.
It's like we're playing a game
Uh-huh.
with a set of rules
Right.
that no one ever explicitly agreed to.
Exactly. It's like a game with no rule book.
And it highlights why it's so important to
Yeah.
bring these covert contracts to the surface,
Right.
to make those unspoken expectations explicit,
Yeah, to talk about them openly.
so that couples can have honest conversations
Uh-huh.
about what they truly want and need from a relationship.
Totally. Communication is key.
So how do we do that?
Right.
How do we break out of these outdated patterns of relating to each other?
Well, I think Hegel would say that it starts with awareness. It starts with recognizing the influence of those historical and societal forces that have shaped our thinking about relationships.
It's like that first step of
Yeah.
self-estrangement
Right.
we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Becoming aware of the forces that have shaped us
Yeah.
without being completely defined by them.
Exactly.
It's about becoming more conscious,
Right.
more self-aware,
Uh,
more critical of the assumptions we're operating under.
yeah. Questioning everything.
And it's about recognizing that those assumptions might be rooted in a historical context that no longer serves us.
Right. We need to update our software.
So once we've done that inner work,
Okay.
once we've started to unravel those covert contracts,
Mm-hmm.
how do we move forward?
Yeah.
How do we create relationships that are truly equitable and fulfilling?
Well, it's about communication, honesty, and a willingness to negotiate.
Yeah.
It's about having those difficult conversations with our partners about what we expect, what we need, and what we're willing to compromise on.
And it's about being open to challenging those traditional roles and expectations,
Absolutely.
even if they feel comfortable or familiar.
Yeah, we need to step outside our comfort zones.
It's about creating a new kind of relationship contract,
Right.
one that's based on mutual respect, open communication, and a shared understanding of the challenges and opportunities of modern life.
Exactly. A contract that works for both partners.
It sounds like a lot of work, but also incredibly rewarding.
It is. But the rewards are definitely worth the effort, because when we can move beyond those limiting beliefs and those unspoken expectations, we create space for relationships that are truly authentic and fulfilling.
This deep dive into Hegel has been eye-opening.
Yeah, it's been really insightful.
Who knew that a philosopher from the 19th century
Right.
could offer so much insight
Yeah.
into the challenges of modern relationships?
Hegel's ideas have a way of resonating across time. His emphasis on understanding the historical context of our lives, on challenging assumptions, and on the power of self-awareness are all incredibly relevant to navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
And his concept of the dialectic,
Yeah.
this idea that progress comes through conflict and resolution,
Uh-huh.
offers a hopeful framework for approaching those conflicts.
Right.
Not as roadblocks, but as opportunities
Yeah,
for growth and transformation.
exactly.
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this
Okay.
is that we have a choice.
Yeah.
We could either be passive participants in our relationships,
Yeah.
letting those unspoken expectations and outdated scripts dictate our interactions,
Mhm.
or we can become active agents,
Yeah.
consciously shaping our relationships into something that truly works for both partners.
It's about taking ownership of our desires, our needs, and our expectations. It's about recognizing our own power to create the kind of relationships we want.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
I've learned a lot.
Me too.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Hegel
You're welcome.
and the surprisingly relevant insights he offers
Yeah.
into modern relationships.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time on the deep dive,
Looking forward to it.
where we'll explore, well, you'll just have to wait and see.